Since the release of the Tudor Black Bay Monochrome, I have not been able to get that watch out of my mind. I don't need another watch right now, but you know how that goes. Although I've never been to a Tudor AD, I had the opportunity to the other day, and after trying on a bunch of their watches, I was quickly reminded why they've gained so much popularity. They do a really good job at making watches that watch enthusiasts want to wear. Although they do have watches with diamonds and precious metals, at the core, Tudor makes tool watches at a high level. While I was driving home from my visit to the AD, I kept thinking about all the things I love about watches and started reflecting back on my watch collecting journey. Like many of you, my very first experience with watches started in a familiar way. As a kid, I remember walking through the mall, seeing the Swatch store, and all the colorful and cool-looking watches they had. I was fascinated with them, and after convincing my parents I wouldn't lose or break the watch, they bought me one for a birthday present. Throughout those childhood years, I owned a few Swatch watches, and to my parents' delight, I never had any issues with them. As time went on, my Swatch phase phased, and it wasn't until a very random experience years later did I get back to wearing watches. You know those shopping network channels on TV where they do nothing but sell items like knives, TVs, and different electronics? One day as a teenager, I was looking for something to watch on TV and came across a shopping network selling watches. Not just any watches, but, you guessed it, Invicta. And I was mesmerized by all the different styles. They were big, bold, and borderline ridiculous, but nonetheless, I was hooked. None of the watches were ones I would wear, but it was that afternoon that made me want to start wearing a watch again. As anyone usually does when it's time to research something, I hopped on the internet to find my next watch. I had no clue what to look for and what made a good watch, so my criteria was quite simple. It had to look cool. I went through a variety of watches from Kenneth Cole to Nixon and even the Invicta Sub lookalike. Fast forward to my early 20s, and this is when I started to become more serious about watches. I started to learn about Swiss watches and other big brands in the watch game, which then led me to Seiko, Citizen, Tissot, and Hamilton. My first Swiss watch was the Tissot T-Classic PR100 chronograph with the black dial and yellow accents. I absolutely loved the watch, wore it every day for many years, and it cemented my passion for timepieces. I wish I could say I kept my passion to just a few watches here and there, but as my wife would say, I became obsessed. Not just because I had many watches in my collection, but it went beyond just watches. I started to buy different straps and bracelets to switch up the looks of my watches, and I also went down the wild rabbit hole that is watch modding. It's not my fault though. The Seiko SKX is an amazing watch, and once I learned there are aftermarket dials, watch hands, bezels, and realizing that pretty much everything on the watch could be modded, I had to do it myself. There are definitely some lessons I learned along the way and many mistakes I made, most usually fueled by late-night online shopping, but my watch collecting journey has been fun. I've had many watches come and go, some I missed more than I thought I would, and others that found a permanent home in my collection. I look forward to picking up the Tudor Black Bay Monochrome in a few days and suspect it will be a forever watch, but only time will tell.